Good morning, everyone. And for those who are watching from other time zones, good evening or good afternoon. And my name is Marilyn, at least for those who are new in this platform. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating customized programs with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, and that includes Petronas, Sony Mobile, ProLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. And the reason why we are organizing several interventions, including this interview, is because we would like to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and for those who are afraid that you can't keep your team and business. And to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situation, do join us in these uh, interventions and, of course, these interviews that we usually do. So today, it's my great pleasure. I'm so delighted, elated. I even don't know how to actually express how grateful I am to have my guest for today. Dave Ulrich is the Rensis Likert Professor at the Ross School of Business, University of Michigan, and a partner at the RBL Group, a consulting firm focused on helping organizations and leaders deliver value. He has published over 200 articles and book chapters and over 30 books. He edited Human Resource Management between 1990 to 1999, served on editorial board of four journal and on board director of for Herman Miller for 16 years, and has spoken to large audience in 90 countries, performed workshops for over half of the Fortune 200, coach successfully business leaders, and distinguished fellow in National Academy of Human Resources. He is known for continually learning, turning complex ideas into simple solutions, and creating real value to those he works with in three fields, which are organizations. So he has influenced thinking about modern organization. He has articulated effective leadership in connection with results, customers, bottom line, and sustainability. And of course, he is also the father of HR. And I would say the reason why HR has transformed to reach the next level where they are today. I wouldn't read through all his awards and recognition because I will be finishing probably the hour that we have for this interview. So I'll just probably share with you his latest this 2022, and we're just getting started. Hello. Who's Who in the Future of Work by Analytica, one of the top 30 people analytics leader by Perceptics, and number 6 out of 200 thought leader in leadership by Leaders Hum. So without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in Dave. Hi, Dave.
Mary Lynn, welcome and thank you. Thank you so much for welcoming me to your show. And I welcome you to my office in the United States. This is where I live and where I work. So, good morning to you, and good afternoon and good evening to others. Thank you. What a privilege to be with you today.
Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to have you today. And I haven't really gotten much sleep in the last months, knowing that I will interview you today. So, actually, I'll be asking you 8 questions. Basically, the first three will be for us to understand from which perspective you're coming from. The next three will be, I would say, the meaty or the juicy part of the conversation. And the last two would be very open and interesting questions, I would say, which I would always refer to as the Miss Universe questions. So, but before that, I'm really curious to know, this is not part of the 8 question, but when you have actually said yes to me in this interview, and at the same time when you said like, I'm open to have the interview between 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. It's like, my jaw really dropped. Like, this guy with 30 authored book and all these awards, recognition, and accomplishments still managed to work that long. And so I'm curious to know, I wanted to be inspired with your why.
That's a great question. By the way, I should start to set a tone for this interview. You said I'm the father of human resources. Let me show you a picture. I'm the father of three children and these 10 grandchildren. So that's who I'm the father and grandfather of. That's our family, our son, my wife, me, our daughter, and husband. So that's who I'm the father of. I make that more personal. Um, I
You.
think we all ask ourselves the question, what drives us? We do values exercises. What are my values? What keeps me alive? What keeps me working? And I've been through those exercises, and I know, Mary Lynn, you have as well. For me, there's two things. I love to learn. I love to learn. I love to surround myself with ideas and fresh ideas. In fact, I've said to my good wife at times that my ideas are often my best friends. She doesn't like that very much because she thinks she's my best friend, which she is. But I love ideas. And number two, I love ideas that have impact. So we did a book about learning, which is Ideas with Impact. The magazine picked it up as their tagline. We do ideas with impact. But that's what I'm passionate about is learning new ideas, challenges, difficult things that will then help other people be more successful. And that keeps me awake every day almost or every week. I hope I have a couple of new ideas that will have impact on other people.
Wow, that's really amazing. I love your why. And it's the same way as I'm doing this um, interviews and hoping to add value and to create that impact to others, right? And yeah, I'm kind of addicted with learning as well. So thank you for sharing that with us, Dave. And I really appreciate your time again. So starting with a question so that our audience will really get so much from this conversation, please do share with us your leadership experiences. If you do have like influencers or favorite leadership leadership style that you would usually use in your daily life.
If I were to draw a picture, and I would do this if I were coaching you, Mary Lynn, is put
Mhm.
yourself in the middle and then think of a constellation of people who've influenced you.
Mhm.
And let me just share who some of those people are. I
Mhm.
have to start with my mother and father. I had great parents and sister. Ooh, I got pictures today. So we're going to show pictures. This is my
Wow.
mother, and obviously me and my sister. This is my father. This is a book my children made so that I could read it to my grandchildren. This is your great grandpa Ulrich. I'll show one other picture. He
Wow.
drove a truck. Where's his truck? Oh, that's not his truck. Hang on, I'll get his truck. There's his truck. He drove a truck and would pick up food that he'd give to homeless people. So he'd go to the grocery store. I think the picture's behind me, and he'd pick up food that was left over and he'd take it to those in need throughout the city where he lived. I learned from my mother and my father. That's one stakeholder. I learned from people I've worked with. I call them my idea mentors. When I was at the university, professors who mentored me and helped me. I've had many great colleagues. You said I've written a lot of books. I've written quite a few books. All of them but two have been with co-authors, people whose ideas I admire. And I love co-authoring because we get to know other people. I published the people who are my idea mentors at the university and elsewhere. I've learned from my religious setting. I think if somebody were to say to me, what's the most important book you've read recently, it would be my Bible. I know that's unusual to say, but I'm willing to learn that the Quran, which is this is Ramadan as we're doing this, Sheikh Zayed. I think religious leaders in all religions have great, for the most part, have great values and learn. I think I learn by observing others. I have the privilege periodically of coaching really excellent people, men and women who are trying to do good, and I learn from each of them. So I have those stakeholders who shape who I am and what I do, and who help me learn with them and from them, but who also give me value because of what they teach me. By the way, who would be one of your stakeholders? I should have warned you. I'm going to ask you questions as well so that I can learn from you. Who would be one of your stakeholders?
um, I would say not one, it's more of three, um, which are my children and where I've actually learned leadership from, right? And of course, when I work with, because I always in the middle, I'm bridging between clients and partners. So my stakeholders will definitely be my client, and I also take care of my partner, which I mean I'm so grateful for, because at least they get to see that, right?
I made a mistake. I left off my good wife. I have to show my partner. We've been together over 40 years, and she is probably my dominant influencer and stakeholder. So I agree with children. I know your children are young. Our children are obviously older. And I continue to learn from them. They are wonderful. And I've heard that a 16-year-old is someone you learn a great deal from. So when the child is 16, they are becoming independent. And yet, as a parent, we want to love them and still give them their independence. That's what leaders do. Leaders want to direct their employees, but they want to give them their independence as well. And I can imagine that if you ever had a 16-year-old, you'd be facing some of those issues.
Definitely, definitely. She has her own like screen time and like me time most of the time. But I'm really blessed that we have very good relationship with each other, and she would share a lot of things with me, and she's actually most talkative when she's with me. I would say.
Wonderful. I hope people talk in the field. Amy Edmondson at Harvard has talked about psychological safety. I hope we have that in our families, that our families are a safe place where our children feel safe with us. We have three children who are now obviously older, and they love to give us feedback and suggestions, and we listen to them and we learn from them. And our grandchildren, I showed you the picture. We have a great experience with our grandchildren. So thank you. Those are wonderful stakeholders. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And so, I mean, you've shared with us how you learn from the people around you, from family to those who you've actually worked with, and of course, your stakeholders as well. So, having said that, what is leadership for you?
Leadership is one of those topics that everybody touches and they know it exists, but it's hard to specifically define. Leadership is when somebody works hard to make somebody else better. And let me give two or three phrases that may capture that. There's a phrase in the field by a group that says, build on your strengths. It's a great idea, but that's not leadership. Leadership is build on your strengths that strengthen others. And leadership is about strengthening others because of your strengths. Leadership is not about your power, it's how you use your power to empower somebody else. And so leadership is not about what I know and do. It's how what I know and do helps somebody else know and do what they need to know and do. And so, one of my great tests of leadership, and I do research and I love statistics and I love writing and all the statistics that go with it, but it's an intuitive one. When I leave an interaction with a leader or an individual, do I feel better or worse about myself? A good leader leaves an interaction feeling better about him or herself. That's what leadership is. I've had an interaction with you now for, I'm looking at the clock, for 14 minutes. I already feel better about myself. The way you behave, the way you question, the way you're curious, you make me feel better. That's what leadership is helping somebody else feel better. The value of leadership is not what you know and do, it's how you help other people know and do what they need to do.
Wow, that's really, you made it sound simple and yet impactful, I would say. And like a lot of us confuse leadership for a lot of things, right? I mean, we've been like, I've interviewed for over a year, and more often than not, people would, leaders would define leadership differently in many ways. And again, that's based probably of their experience and how
That's right.
um, their style is. But I really love how you shared, or defined leadership as, working and improving others as well, and making them feel better. And you've mentioned earlier as well about psychological safety, and that's true for any organizations or even within the family, like what you've said, right? So
Let me give an example. In my office, I have pictures of people who influence me. I'll turn around this way. One
wow.
is Sheikh Zayed. I know we're at Ramadan. In the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Zayed was an incredible leader. And those from the East who are Muslims celebrating Ramadan and Muhammad and others. But he had great resources. He was the sheikh, but he used his resources to help his citizens. So throughout the UAE, everybody got a piece of land for a house, and everybody got a piece of land to build a business. He made others better. The second picture back there is Martin Luther King, who was an activist in the United States who tried to help the disadvantaged. And the third picture is the picture of my father, um, who had, this is my father again, it's this picture here. He had his little truck and he would go to a grocery store and pick up food every day. And when he was retired, and give that food to those in need. That's for me what leadership is with Sheikh Zayed, with Martin Luther King, with my father, and with others is how do I lead so somebody else gets better? Again, it's the same thing, Mary Lynn, with your children, for your 16-year-old daughter. How do I make sure she gets better because of what I do as a parent? And my success is not that she does what I want. That's not good leadership. It's that she does what helps her
True.
fulfill her goals. So those are some quick examples that you see in my office.
Wow, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that with us. And before I proceed to the next question, I just wanted to show like the comment from William. He's saying hello to you.
Hi.
And we've got quite a number of like loves and likes here. So Sophia, Angeline, and William, thank you for your love. And um, Nanay Ao says, gives us a like as well as Nicole. Thank you so much for watching us live and for your support. Really appreciate that. And so, in my introduction earlier, I've made mention about the challenges that the next normal has brought about, and so I'm curious to know, how would you define and describe next normal?
A lot of people talk about the new normal and what
New
it's going to be. And they say, let me tell you what the new normal is.
normal.
And I look at them and I say, wow, you must be very rich because you bought Zoom and Tesla and Apple stock 2 years ago before the crisis hit. No, I didn't do that. Well, you don't know the new normal. And I'm increasingly amazed that we try to predict a normal that we can't predict. I would never have predicted COVID. 60 days ago, there was an invasion in the Ukraine that none of us could have predicted. I think that we shouldn't focus on what we don't know. I don't know the new normal. Let me try to give an illustration. And Mary Lynn, you're so kind to let me talk with you. You have a daughter who's 16. And I said that before because you told me that. Do you know where she's going to go to school? No. Do you know what she's going to study in school? No. Do you know who she might marry? No. Do you know where she might live? No. Look at all the things you don't know. But let me ask you a simple question. Will you love your daughter no matter what?
Definitely.
That's it. There's the insight. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what my work will be. I don't know where I might work. I don't know what I might work on. But what am I certain about? That's the new normal. Instead of focusing on the uncertainty, focus on the certainty. I know I will love. By the way, we have 3 children. Once in a while, they test me. Dad, will you love me if? And I'm sure your daughter's never done that. But and the answer is, of course I will. That for me is where the new normal is founded. We can try to harness uncertainty, we can tame our fears, and we can focus on the future and we can experiment. But I love to focus on what we know. And that was your very good first question 0, actually, which was, what do you know? I know I'm going to learn, and I know I'm going to try to help somebody else get better. That's what I know. And I don't care where it is. I could be working in a big company, a small company. I could be working in your world with a government client or a private client. I could be coaching, I could be training, but I'm going to focus on the things I know for sure. And in a world of uncertainty, rather than getting obsessed by what we don't know, I would encourage us to get very clear about what we do know with certainty.
Oh, I love how you put that together. I mean, like, that's kind of obvious, but a lot of people still struggle around that, right? I mean, even I myself, do that to myself at times, like where, I've been like, oh, I want this, I want that, and but I have this right now. So, it's really like focusing on what you have, what you want, and what you know, right? Like what you've
Yeah.
mentioned. And
By the way, I don't do this so well. I struggle as well. Will I travel as much? I traveled almost every day for 20 years. I want to come back to Singapore, but I'm not able to do that right now. What do I know? I have the privilege of having a call with you this morning in your time, Maryland. I know I'm going to try to learn from the call. I'm taking notes. I know I'm going to try to create value for those listeners that are listening. I don't know a lot of things, but I do know a few, and I hope we can focus on that which we know.
yes, thank you. It's really focusing and trusting ourselves. Just before our call, I actually was meditating and I was listening to that message that it's really trusting not only others but trusting yourself to be able to trust others. And again, like what you've said, it's basically like focusing on what you know, right?
Nice.
And before my next question, I'd like to say hi to Sophia. He said that Dave has an awesome selection of inspirational leaders picture. Thank you for that comment. Yay to that.
Thank you.
So, and that, I mean, we've talked about the next normal, new normal, and despite that, you've mentioned that, we're supposed to focus on um, what we know, but we also now know that even before the pandemic, leaders have been um, facing problems, right? So from your experience working with you've in my introduction over 200 fortune 200 companies, right? So working with those corporate leaders, what would you say would be the top three problems that they normally face?
I'm gonna suggest five.
Okay.
I love research, and I really enjoy collecting data. Sometimes statistics and big data sets. We've just done three big research projects. One with 28,000 people, one with 1,000 companies, and one with over 7,000 companies. But I also love to look at other people's research and learn from it. So
Mhm.
a few years ago, we said, so what are the challenges leaders have, and what do good leaders need to know and do? So I did something really interesting in terms of research. I went to 15 people. That's not very many. But these 15 people had collectively written 100 books on leadership. So if you go to the people, Bob Eichinger, there are books on my shelf,
Mhm.
and they'd done over 1 million leadership 360s. And I said, you know more than I do. What do leaders need to do and respond to challenges? And as I summarized that, there were five. Here they are. Strategy. You need to have a direction for the future. This is so simple. Where are we going? What's next? Execution. How do we make sure things get done? We make promises that we deliver. We hold people accountable. We get results. Number three, manage your people today. Manage your people. Take care of your people. Inspire them, motivate them, care for them, nurture them, be an emotional caregiver. Number four, create human capability for the future. And I can talk more about that. That's care about the next generation. Like I started, am I creating other leaders who are better than me? And number five, kind of at the heart of the whole thing, am I taking care of myself? Do I have personal attributes? The attributes of caring, the attributes of listening, the attributes of authenticity, physical, social, emotional. So, five challenges. Where am I going? Strategy. How do I get there? Execution. Who goes with me? Talent. Who stays when I leave? Next generation. And who's going to follow me and trust me? How do I care for myself? Those are the five that we see. And when leaders do those five things in any company, big or small, top of the company, entry level of the company, government, private, in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Brazil, those five seem to be what we call the code of leadership, the basic essentials of good leadership.
Wow. So let me just so that's top 10 essentials, sorry, top 5 essentials of leadership, right? So again, strategy, execution, talent, next generation, and taking care of
Personal,
yourself as
personal.
well, or
That's it.
personal.
Great.
uh, yeah, and at the same time, uh you've mentioned as well during that answer of the top problems, which is also the top essentials of a leader's must have, right? So it's like you're answering my both my fourth and fifth question, but I would like to find out more in terms of, like, these are the problems that they do face, but at the same time, these are the essentials that, or principles for leaders that they must have.
Yeah.
Are there any additional, like, comments on why do you think these are the top essentials, or
Let's talk about those. I'm going to go to number five that you've posted, taking care of yourself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
When I have the privilege, and I know you love to coach leaders and you've done great coaching and you talked about that. And whenever I coach a leader, I almost always begin and end with the question, are you taking care of yourself? Because if you don't take care of yourself, it's going to be very hard to care for others. And so in the COVID crisis, I know Singapore's had shutdowns and difficulties. If we don't take care of our own mental and emotional health, we're not going to be able to help other people. So we've looked at five elements of caring for yourself, and I'll just go through those very quickly again. Am I taking? By the way, I were coaching you, I'd say, Mary Lynn, are you taking care of yourself intellectually? Are you curious? Are you learning? Number two, emotionally, do you manage your mental health, your anxiety, your stress? Number three, socially, are you surrounding yourselves with friends, not just the best friend at work? We've heard that, but a best friend who doesn't care about your work. Do you have good friends who you can share with? Are you taking care of yourself physically? The sleep, and you need to sleep. You were awake all night. You said, I don't sleep very well sometimes. Idea friends keep me awake. That's health, nutrition, diet, space. I love your house. It's got a beautiful room. I think that's a picture. This is actually my office, so it's not a picture. And then, so let me do those again. Are you taking care of yourself intellectually? Are you taking care of yourself emotionally, socially, physically? And then the final one is spiritually, but it's not about a religion. It's finding meaning and purpose in your life. I just, before we got on the call, I was reviewing a paper for a magazine. And when teams focus on the spirituality side of meaning and of purpose, they are more able to deal even with toxic leaders, with leaders who are not good. And when the team manage their meaning and purpose, I call that spirituality, however you define it. You may meditate, you may read the Quran, you may read the Old Testament. But when people find some sense of the divine or the purpose through meditation or otherwise, they are then able to cope with the demands that they face. So those are the five things that we think. Take care of yourself intellectually, curiosity, career, professionally, emotionally. I think emotionally, we get depressed when we look back, we get anxious when we look forward. Socially, having colleagues and friends, physically, our health, our physical space, and then spiritually.
thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I would say that this is a lot of times has been like overlooked by most leaders, because you can, how can you actually give from an empty vessel, right?
Oh,
That's
great.
what we are supposed to always ask ourselves. And I really love how you've actually shared it in a, I would say, a very holistic manner, right? Because we are human. We have to be integrated. We have to consider every aspects of our life to be fulfilled, to be happy. And that includes taking care of ourselves in every aspects, from our intellectual, our emotions, our social relationships, our health or physical, as you've mentioned, as well as spiritual. Because without having, you know, having to fulfill all those, um, s- there's no balance, right?
It's funny. I don't know. I was in a workshop, or a friend of mine was in a workshop with thousands of people, and the person doing the center said, "How many of you in the last 2 years since COVID have felt more stress?" And almost every hand went up. How many of you have felt more anxious? Every hand. How many of you have felt less calm and overwhelmed and out of control? Every hand. What do you do? Let me give an example. I also get discouraged. I also get stressed. A number of years ago, I ran a mission for our church, and I had 200 young people that reported to me as president.
Mhm.
And one month, I was feeling kind of discouraged. I shouldn't admit that, but we all feel that at times. And I thought,
Exactly.
what can I do? And here's the lesson: serve someone, serve someone. So those young people came to meet with me as the president, a leader, and I decided to polish every pair of shoes. So a young man or a young woman would come in to meet with me as president, and I'd say, "Take off your shoes." And they go, "No, no, my feet don't smell good." And I polished every pair of shoes. By the time I'm done polishing 200 pair of shoes, I have a sense of empathy, a sense of compassion. So I find, and I know I'd love to hear what you say, when we meet with leaders or self assessment ourselves and we're feeling a little down, which is not uncommon, that's reality. Who can I serve today? Who can I help today? What can I do that might be meaningful to someone else? I find that when I ask that question, I don't always get an answer. But usually, when I do get an answer and I follow that answer, that feeling of inspiration or whatever you call it, by making somebody else feel better, I feel better. I don't know if you've tried that in your coaching. I have in some of mine.
Yeah, definitely. One of my, like, I don't know if you've heard of Gene Keys. Like I've mentioned to you earlier, I'm kind of addicted with learning. I've been learning so many things in different ways. Like, I even go to as deep as these Gene Keys and Akashic reading and all those stuff. Um, and in fact, I'm not sure if you remember in my post, I said, like, this is my divine blessing day. And I really appreciate that it's happening during the interview that we have. And divine blessing, I've learned about it through Chimen manifestation, which is under I Ching studies as well. So that's very interesting. And yeah, and in my gene keys, actually my main purpose in life is to serve others. And it's like, wow. And no wonder, I mean, I'm a hotelier by profession and training, and that's, I guess, the reason why I'm enjoying so much of what I do. And but when I shifted to training, coaching, and consulting, I said, like, oh, I think I love this better because I'm always curious. I'm i'm a learner. That's one of my strength, according to Gallup, in fact. So, and at the same time, I said, like, when you learn something, or when you empower someone with the learning, right, it's actually something that you cannot take away from that person anymore, right? And that's really so much value, right? And that's why, like, I want to dedicate my life with this.
I
So,
love it. I love it. And, let's go back to that uncertainty and new normal. And you said there's two things that you are certain about. One is you want to create trust, and
mhm,
the other is you want to learn. And if I
mhm,
go into an uncertain situation, who will be my client? Where will I get a job? Will I travel? Those can be obsessive. But if I go, whatever I do, I'm going to try to build trust, and I'm going to try to learn that will help others. And that certainty, I think, gives us then confidence to go ahead and act, even in a world of uncertainty. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I've written down, I think I'm going to try to look it up and learn a little bit. So send me a note and I'll try to learn some of what you've learned.
thank you. I'll do that. I'll send you the link later on. So anyway, we've been talking a lot about learning, about leadership, and how you've actually also, like, in your introduction, I'm sure you've helped a lot of organizations already by now. You've served organization to move to the next level to transform, right? So what do you believe the would be the role of learning and leadership, especially in order to transform and thrive in the next normal?
I think one of the challenges we face, and let me kind of wander just a little bit with this. You've been doing a lot of shows. I go on LinkedIn. I see lists of ideas. I have books on my shelves. There are just so many things we're hearing in TED Talks and other podcasts. What could we do? And there's all these ideas, and there's just an overwhelming. I think one of the things we need to do in our field is create a discipline of where we should focus. What is it I should focus on that will help me? Let me give a simple example. I have struggled much of my life with weight. I get heavy, I get less heavy, and I go up and down. A lot of people love to say, well, try this diet, try that diet, try that diet, try this, try that. And I get overwhelmed. We need to discover what works for us. Now, in our field, we've often gone through three steps. One, benchmark. Try to do what somebody else has done. So I benchmark. How do I compare with as a leader? Second, we best practice. Who's really good? Can I do what Dr. or Sheikh Zayed does? Can I do what Dr. King does? Can I do what the founder of Singapore does? I've lost his name right now. His son is in charge. Can I do what he did as a great leader? No. Benchmark tries to make me as good as someone else. Best practice, I learn what somebody else did. Where we need to head is guidance for ourselves. So, in terms of dieting, what diet will work for me? What leadership practice will work for me? And I think the impact, and we call that guidance and personalization, is figuring out of all of these HR practices I could focus on, which one works for me? That's the question. And I can go deeper on that, but that's the question I should be asking. Of all of these things I could do as a leader, which one works for me? And the answer to that for me is starting with the outcome I want. What does it mean to work well? Will it help if I'm a leader? Will this practice help my employees be more committed, more competent, more productive? Will it help my strategy happen? Will it help me deliver the goals of my company? Will it help my customers have a better experience? Will it help my investors? Will it help my community? Those are the outcomes that define what works best. And then I should say, what are the HR practices that will drive those outcomes for me? Now, I'm almost done with this long answer. I'm sorry. I think there's three types of HR practices. And I'm going to now take you through something that makes me look really stupid. And I'll let you look stupid with me. My fingers represent my people. I can do a practice that manages my people. I can hire, I can train, I can pay, I can coach, I can do careers, I can do engagement, all about my people. My fist represents my organization, my culture. I build agility, I build innovation, I build purpose, I build efficiency. My hand and fist together, and I know in China that represents respect and leadership. That's leadership. So here's the question I ask people. And if I'm a business leader, it's what I should be asking if I'm an HR leader. To make those five outcomes happen, employee, strategy, customer, investor, community, what should I do with my people, my organization, and my leadership? And then my forearms represent the HR services, the systems of HR. So I'm going to have you look silly with me. So if you could hold up your fingers, your fist, put them together, and then go like that. That's called the HR wave. Okay, that makes me look silly. But that's okay. I don't mean to look silly. But I take that really seriously. When you say, what can we do? Do we have the right people, the right organization, the right leadership to deliver those outcomes? That's the work I am so passionate about that work and trying to create value through people, organization, and leadership.
That's really a great reminder for everyone, right? Because that's also like the challenges or the struggle I would have when I talk to some companies or some people where they would always ask, what do you specialize in? What do you, they would keep on like telling you like you must just do this or do that or something like that. But in the back of my mind, it's kind of similar to the concept that you were sharing, is that it doesn't work that way. You have to work together, right?
Yeah,
There has to be the right people, the organization, and the leaders that work for that outcomes. And uh, it has to go together, right?
that's
And
true.
that reminds me as well of like what we talked about earlier about being holistic. And I also love what you shared, that it has to be something that would work for you, right? Because each and every organization would be in different levels, could be in different situation, or could have a different like outcomes or goals that they have based on their operations or in the things that they do, right? So like, and that's the reason why I'm not sure if you remember in my introduction as well, we wanted leaders, we wanted to work with leaders who are learners and action takers, because even if you have the knowledge, right, if you don't take that into action, then how? Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You will not be able to create that outcome. And that's the reason why we really love working with clients who are willing to co-create and customize the program. Because again, it doesn't make sense whether it's, you benchmark like what you've said, and you've done your, follow the best practices, but if it doesn't fit or work for you, it will not be sustainable, right?
When I teach, I love to ask people. People often say, "Can you give me a case study?" And I say, "I can do case studies. I tell stories. All of my books have stories in them. But in a case study, you learn a lot about a company you don't work in. I
Mm-hmm.
learn a lot about Unilever. So I shouldn't start mentioning companies, social responsibility, or I learn a lot about Temasek and how they manage their operations. What you really want to learn about is yourself and what can you do. And so the best diet is not what are you doing to diet? The best diet, are you doing this diet? The best diet is what are you doing to manage your physical health? And what could you learn that would help you do better? We call that guidance, and it's very focused on each individual. We have 3 children. As your children grow, you're going to find that we have found, at least anybody with 3 children, they're very different. One is very liberal, one is very conservative, one doesn't care. And we love each of them, but we tailor our relationship with them according to their needs and their wants. And that's part of what I think parenting is, and also what I think good leadership is.
True, and that's the reason why I think I've mentioned to you earlier, like I believe that I've learned leadership more by taking care of my children more than my
Totally agree.
corporate life. So
Yeah, I told we talk, for example, about performance appraisal. How do you set goals? How do you handle feedback? How do you give incentives? And people go, oh, there's a system for that. There's a formal process, managing by objectives or key result programs or some other 9 box. And I say, think about your 5-year-old. How do I help my 5-year-old manage his or her goals? How do I help my 16-year-old set their goals and give them feedback? If we can learn to do it with a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old who might be toilet trained, if we can do it in those family settings, we can transfer that knowledge. And I'll give one example. Let's assume, and I know this would never happen to you, but let's assume your teenager did something inappropriate, whatever that might be, just for a minute. I have seen some parents, and my wife's a very good psychologist, who say, I don't know what to say to my daughter or my son who did something bad. So I said nothing. Well, guess what? The loudest feedback you can give your child is none. Because if your child does something inappropriate and you say nothing, A, they think you don't care. B, they don't trust you as a parent. The same is true of leadership. When a leader has an employee who's misbehaved for whatever reason, if you say nothing, the employee goes, "Oh, they don't care." Or maybe it isn't that bad. I can do it again. Or they lose respect for you as a leader. I think those lessons from family apply very much to the leadership setting in which we live and work.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and reminding our audience around that. I mean, that's the reason why communications and feedback is really important in any situation, whether it's in family or in business, right? And I think that's where like most leaders are challenged with, I would say. That in since you love statistics as well, and I've seen this article around that 6 out of 10 leadership skills is around communications that are lacking for, or like a challenge for most leaders, right? and and I don't know, for obvious reason, that even in relationship and personal, how can you resolve things when you don't talk to each other, right? It's kind of difficult. And that's you've mentioned about my 16-year-old. Recently I've been like reminding her, like, you can actually communicate in such a way that it's not going to be rude for me, right? Like, I bought you something for you to try out because I wanted you to get an outcome, but obviously because it's something new and I don't need it, so it's something that I just wanted you to try. And she was telling me during that time that it's not because it's working for you that means it's working for me. I said, like, I don't even need that. I don't have pimples on my face. It's for you, and I haven't tried that. So I said, like, I just wanted to see like which product will work for you best, right? So I said, like, you can be more respectful, or you don't have to be rude just to give me that message or that feedback, right?
Well, let me give an example in a business setting. I said earlier, one of the tests of a good leader, a simple test, is do I leave feeling better or worse about myself? By the way, you
Yes.
can do that with your daughter, you can do it with your spouse.
Hmm.
I'm coaching a leader, and an employee of this leader, and I won't name the company or the leader, made a big mistake, and it cost the company a lot of money. And this company is a bit of a command and control company. And I told the leader, before you respond, instinctively talk to me. So he had prepared a response. Here was his response: "You made a big mistake. It will cost us a lot of money. And if you don't get better, you may lose your job." I said to him, "May I add 3 sentences?" Here's his three. You made a mistake. Anyway, sentence number one: "I care about you." Sentence number two: "You have great potential at this company. You made a big mistake. It cost us a lot of money." And then sentence number three: "Let's learn from it so that you can save your job." Now, I didn't walk away from the second and third, the message. You made a mistake and it cost us money. Leadership is an accountability, but I care about you. You have great potential, and let's learn to help you get better. When we can think of leadership in terms of helping someone else improve, then our leadership is not about us, it's about helping somebody else get better. That's not always easy to do. But by the way, I say that if my children were listening and they'd say, "So, Dad, why didn't you do that more often?" Because I'm not perfect at it. But I think that mindset of always, how can I help somebody else improve, is what leadership, I hope, is increasingly about.
Yes, and if your people knows that you care about them, then they'll be open to like hearing your feedback as well, right? And we
Yeah,
talk about psychological safety earlier as well, and that's what it's meant for, building that
absolutely.
relationship, that trust, and being able to communicate even those difficult um, conversations that you might have with your team.
So I'd love to ask anybody who might be listening to just put in the chat, what have you heard so far? What have you heard that might be helpful to you? Because I want to learn if my messages are helpful to you. And if you have anything, just put them in, and I know Mary Lynn will share some of those, and we'll learn together. But I just enjoy these conversations. I've got some notes already of things that I will look up based on what you've said. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Dave. I'm also taking notes here while I'm doing the interview as well. And yes, we invite all those who's watching us live today to join us to ask questions. I mean, this is our opportunity to ask Dave as much questions since we have him now. So feel free to ask your question, give your comments, and share what you are learning so far from this conversation. And there's one here that I haven't shared. So William said leadership definitely start within the household.
Right.
Yes, thank you for that. And so, like everyone, we're inviting you, whether you're watching from YouTube, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, feel free to share with us your comments, your questions, um, as we go along with the last few questions for Dave. So, this is the very interesting question, Dave. If you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do?
That's a great question. And I don't think about these questions in advance. Um, I would ask people to be thoughtful about what they can do that will help them fulfill their mission by helping others fulfill theirs. So I'd say, I know, Mary Lynn, you want to build trust, you want to build learning. How can you do that by helping others fulfill their mission? And I think if we have in our mindset the values defined by the receiver, when I get a gift, I'll go back to pictures. When I get a gift from my beautiful wife, the earrings or something else, she defines the value of that gift. When our children say, "What can we do as a family?" and they say, "We want to go to Disney World." So this is our family at Disney World last December. I try to help create value in a way that's meaningful to someone else. And if I were to wave a wand, I'd ask people to really be reflective. How do my actions create value for someone else? That's I don't always do that very well, but when I'm thinking appropriately, that's the mindset I think of good leadership, good parenting, and simply good human beings.
That's Thank you so much. And again, like even without that magic wand, I would say this is something that you've been doing already for the last I don't know how many years, 25 or more, or for the last years that you are even touching the lives of the people that you're working with. Um, it's really like I would say the reason why you in my first question to you on your why, I guess this is also the reason why you have this much energy. I mean, you've done a lot, you have proved a lot, you had all the awards that I could possibly imagine, and yet you're here having this conversation to add value to others still. And it's really like about living your purpose, living your role in this world. And thank you so much for sharing this with us. And that's also a great reminder for everyone listening um or watching us right now, that we have a purpose, we have a mission in life. And one of that mission is really helping others or serving others in life, right?
Nice, beautiful, well said, well said. And again, the test, and I'm feeling it now, is because of the way you've interacted with me, I feel better about myself. And that's what true leadership is am I doing things that are helping others? And in return, it helps me. I'm not denying that, but that's critical for leadership.
Yes, definitely. And I think I believe that this should be the mindset of leaders all the time. It's really, helping people to fulfill their mission out of anything, not only for themselves, but as well as for others. And so that leads me to my last question, actually. If you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? And because you can best answer that, please do answer that for us as well.
I was asked a few years ago to do a commencement address. And most people who do a commencement address have a story from failure to success, Stephen Jobs or Oprah Winfrey, and I'm not anything like that. I had very good parents. They were normal. I didn't have that. but I get to do coaching. And when I do coaching, I often ask four questions. So I'm not going to ask one, I'm going to ask four. And so in my commencement address to graduates, and I still do this, I'm doing a commencement address in Saudi in a couple of weeks. Question one: what do you want? What do you want? If you don't know what you want, somebody will define it for you. Probably not in your interest. What are my strengths, my passions, my skills, my values? What do I want? Which is so critical because sometimes what we want is not always well received. And I could talk about that. But what do I want? Number two, who do I serve? We've gone back to that theme over and over and over again. Am I helping somebody else get what they need? Number three, how do I build? Am I creating a culture? Am I creating an organization? Whatever hotel you worked in, if whatever hotel, are they building a culture so that the guests of that hotel have a great experience? It's not about me, it's about the culture. It's not about a leader, it's about leadership. What do I want? Who do I serve? How do I build? And question four will take me just a minute to explain, where am I? There's a great story in religion. It's Muslim, it's Jewish, it's Christian. It's Adam and Eve. And here's a version, really quick. Adam and Eve made a mistake. They partook of a forbidden fruit. God came down to see them because of their mistake. And he said, Adam, Eve, where are you? Well, for years, I thought they were hiding behind a tree or a rock. And then it hit me, God can see them behind a tree. God can see them behind a rock. They're not hiding. So, what's the question? Where am I? Adam and Eve made a mistake, and it's okay. I think the question from deity was, where am I relative to my mistake? Will I let it cause me to fail, or will I learn from it and move on? And I think that question, which is every major religion believes in the Adam and Eve story, where are you? Where am I? Am I going to learn? Am I going to proceed and succeed? Am I going to get better? I love that question because in any journey, we can always improve. What do I want? You've got them listed. Who do I serve? How do I build? And where am I? I find those are very fascinating questions that I continually self coach and I use when I coach others.
Yes. This is really amazing question, and it's a good reminder for us because I'm, especially for me, I'm doing like some sort of exercise for myself as well. So this is really a good guideline for me to ask myself with, in that exercise that I'm doing right now. Thank you so much for this, Dave. It sounds so simple, and yet it's really helpful because it's important, like, to know, like, where am I going to aim for, right? What am I going to aim for? Not knowing your goals or what you want is like, is really just going everywhere.
Nice, nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So
What a
thank
great chance to meet with you. Thank you so much. I hope I haven't made you feel uncomfortable. I've tried to be in my office and may welcome into my office. I hope I can visit in Singapore with you and with others wherever you're listening from. The best is yet ahead. There's always going to be opportunities to grow. So thank you so, so much.
Yes, I appreciate that. And before I end this interview, I'd like to thank Sophia and read her message as well on. I mean, you asked the question of what they've learned. A great leader cares, creates new leaders, and nurtures the people around them. Thank you,
Beautifully
Sophia,
said.
for sharing what you've learned from Dave as well today. So thank you so much again for this, I would say, very holistic conversation that we had. It's really amazing. It's really an honor to have you here today, Dave. I I really have to find the right words just to describe how I feel today to have you in my interview today, and to add value to as much uh, people that are listening to us. So thank you so much for your time and for this amazing insights that you have shared with us. And I have took notes while we're having this conversation. And before we end, would you like to leave them with any message or any?
I will use five words. The best is yet ahead. The best is yet ahead. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and let's look forward to that. And again, for those, thank you so much, Dave, and for everyone who's watching us, do join us in this journey to create that opportunity. And that what Dave said, the best is yet to come, right? To create that best. And remember that even the richest investors in the world would say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So with that, we would like to leave you with this quote from Dolly Parton, that if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. And I just have an announcement, by the way, because you've mentioned about this podcast, and I'm grateful because it's my Divine Blessing Day. I would like to thank Rich Woman Magazine because today they will be releasing this as a soft launch for my podcast to bring this to the next level. I mean, I've been doing this in social media, but today is the best time for me to launch something, being my Divine Blessing Day. So thank you so much for those who are listening, watching us both on live and replay. And here's a message from William. Thank you, Mr. Dave. We've learned so much today, and congratulations, Miss Marilyn, for organizing this interview. Thank you. And Sophia says, thank you, Mr. Ulrich, and congratulations, Miss Marilyn. You're most welcome, and hope we really inspired you, add value to you, and do connect with us when there's anything we can help you with. Both Dave and I are most willing to add value to to your organization, to your leaders, and to give you outcomes that you're looking forward to have. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you again, Dave. And so stay safe. And another message from Mandy saying thank you, Mandy, for watching us. And so thank you so much, and we look forward to have you again in our next conversations and projects, perhaps. And yeah, see you and stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.